Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm great, man. It's Wednesday, September the 18th as we're recording. So we're going to be pretty current here today. And we got some big news to talk about. And the plastic bag has been recreated. The thing about that was we had this show scheduled long before AEW did their plastic bag angle with Brian and Moxley. So we're not copying them, but we're thinking alike. It seems like.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on and been in the headlines and in recent weeks. You know, our original plan today was to talk about Clash of the Champions number 8, which is the, I guess now infamous plastic bag spot. I don't even know that we'll have time to get to it today because we've got so many other things to talk about. I do want to go ahead and jump right into that since you brought it up. You and I weren't able to sit down and record last week, but boy, a whole lot sure has changed.
Yeah.
We should talk a little bit about All Out and what a huge success that was. You know, it was a really tough experience last year to have two PLEs less than a week apart to do Wembley and then come back and do the United Center in Chicago. We know that's, of course, where CM Punk was shown the door as well. But this time we had 13 days. So it was 2 weeks instead of 1 week. And the result was you had a pretty lively crowd. And man, the performers pulled out all the stops. And I mean, all of them, including a syringe, a real cinder block, a bag over the head, thumbtacks in a ladies match. I mean, there was a lot of swinging for the fences violence. What'd you think of AEW All Out and the chatter about the violence afterwards?
Well, I enjoyed the show overall. I'm not a big plastic bag aficionado. I understand why they did it. I get it. But it's not my cup of tea. So in any event, there you see a good shot there from Old Bull. And that'll set up a Moxley Brian match sooner than later. So it's just not, and maybe it's just the way it's supposed to be. It seems to be a little bit uncomfortable because, you know, that's a dangerous thing and you don't want kids trying it and somebody getting an idea that, hey, I can do that. So it just seems like this group of talent have the ability and the inclination to rise above on pay-per-views, big shows, big events. It's working out well. I'm going to be doing, I was told yesterday that I'm doing the Arthur Ashe event, and which is going to always be fun. It's a unique setting, unique surroundings. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be good. Loaded card, as you can see there. A lot of talent on this card, and it's just funny how we position things. But I didn't hate it. I love the work rate, and there were some really good matches on that show that I truly enjoyed calling. So, but this time my new work schedule is going to be challenging, but fun.
We should mention that All Out, we saw the crowning of some new champions as well over the last couple of weeks since Wembley and all that jazz. Like we know MJF dropped his title at Wembley, and then he came back and had an incredible match, I thought, with Daniel Garcia. And I thought just little things in that match, like the way they got over a basic pile driver. It wasn't a crazy innovative move. It's not something, this is the same sort of old school down and dirty pile driver that we've seen in wrestling for a long, long time. But boy, it felt special. And I thought that was interesting and something that jumped off the page to me in MJF's match.
MJF is very resilient. He can reinvent himself in a heartbeat, it seems like. I like his work as a heel. He's a chicken shit heel. He's a classic example of a chicken shit heel. Moxley, for example, is a heel, but he is very brutal. He's aggressive and he's physical. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll be going to New York next week to do that show. I'm not sure how much of it I'm doing, but I think I'm doing more than normal. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm going to go to Seattle and call the pay-per-view. And so I think my schedule is getting more aggressive, and I'm going to be used more. It seems like, and I'm ready for it. I'm excited about it. So all good, buddy. I love doing the live calls, and still it's in my blood. I still enjoy it. I still get fired up for doing it. It means something to me. At this stage of my game, you never know when you're going to do your last one. So I'm pumped up about that. That's new news, Connie.
Well, you got to go ahead and make plans to join JR and the rest of the AEW crew at Arthur Ashe. Tickets are on sale now for AEW Grand Slam. They're going to be doing Dynamite Live and, of course, throw a Collision in the can as well. So think of it as like a doubleheader if you're in the area. Tickets are on sale now at AEWTix.com. That's AEWTix.com. There's already been a handful of matches that have been announced for AEW Grand Slam. I do want to run through some of those, but I want to spend just a few minutes talking about Arthur Ashe. Like, you yourself have been in all the buildings in the New York area. You've been in the Meadowlands and, certainly been at Continental Airlines Arena and on and on and on. But now in more recent years, of course, in WWE, they've made a home away from home at the Barclays Center. But it does feel like the mecca of wrestling in the Northeast is Madison Square Garden. This Arthur Ashe Stadium opportunity kind of caught me off surprise a few years ago when AEW announced they were going there, because I never imagined a tennis stadium as a wrestling venue. But you've called matches in all the historic venues in the Northeast area, or hell, for that matter, around the world. What can you tell us, those of us who've never attended an event at Arthur Ashe, what makes that building different or special from your perspective?
It's outdoors. Being outdoors, the noise level is has to be addressed and mic'd correctly. But it's the outdoor that facet of this whole proposition is makes it very different, and I'm excited about it. I really am. The Arthur Ashe Stadium concept was Raphael Morphy's idea. He lives there. He lives just a short drive from the stadium. So Raphael was the ramrod of getting that off the ground and getting it organized. And he laid a good pattern. Now you got a production team they got to go in and do just follow up on what Raphael started. And I know that they will. So he texted me yesterday. And
how's Raphael doing?
He's doing good. I think he's going to drop by and see the boys and see everybody. So, but he's an MVP, man. He did such a great job with every facet of the business that he was affiliated with. And it's kind of shorthanded. He didn't have a big staff and all that stuff, but he's creative and did a good job. He did a real good job.
Well, I'm glad to hear that Raphael is doing well, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to be making more appearances for AEW, including next week at Grand Slam. There's a handful of matches that have already been announced. I want to run through some of those with you, Jim, and just get your take. What do you expect to see between Hook and Roderick Strong for the FTW Championship?
Well, two young guys that have everything to gain, nothing to lose. Great opportunity for them on a big stage. Strong and Hook are both a little bit underrated, I think, but they're really good talents, and they have seemingly, Conrad, have good chemistry. So I think it'll be a nice attraction, quite frankly. We don't know. It's hard to qualify how ready Hook and Roderick Strong are for this opportunity. But they're both young and hungry guys, and that usually equates to a good performance. And I think that's what we're going to see out of those two cats.
We got an exciting tag match lined up too. The AEW World Tag Team titles are going to be on the line as the Young Bucks are going to be taking on Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. This is one of those that could steal the show, I think.
Yeah, it could. Ospreay and Fletcher have been waiting for an opportunity to shine in a crowded field of talents. I'm really pumped up about what they're going to bring to the dance. Fletcher's a pleasant surprise. Every time I see him, he's gotten better. And who can't like Will Ospreay, for God's sakes? And then the Bucks are the Bucks, the best tag team. They fit with everybody. They're talented. They're two great leaders. And so their match, like everybody's match, Connie. We've talked about only two so far, but golly, they're ready. I mean, they're ready to steal the show, and everybody wants to steal the show. So I'm pumped up about that one.
What a crazy match this will be. I can't believe I haven't seen this yet. I don't think I've ever seen this. Jon Moxley and Darby Allin and Arthur Ashe. What a match that's going to be. What do you expect in this, man?
Two diverse styles for sure. I think Marina added to the Blackpool Combat Club is a smart move. She hasn't been utilized at all, and adds a different element to the presentation. So I think that's a good move. Moxley is wrestling to get to Bryan Danielson. That's which has been made very clear with the plastic bag and all that stuff. So I think those guys will do real well and could steal the show, no doubt about it. Their styles are so different, and nobody takes an ass whipping better than Darby Allin. He sells great. He's very athletic. So I'm pumped up about that one. I think that could be a show stealer. There's no doubt about it. The one thing about Darby, he takes risk and he sells. And I think that's really two key elements of his game that he brings to the table. So that'll be good, man. I think it'll be a good match. Moxley, Darby's a sharp kid. He'll help lay out a lot of this stuff, no doubt. So I'm a big Darby fan, and as a person and as a talent. And of course, Moxley is starting to get back in the groove. I talked to him at length last week, and or a week before, where it was. He looks great. He feels good. He's not hurt. He's ready to roll. So let the good times roll.
Let's mention too that this will actually be the third through an engaged match. This will be the third match that Jon Moxley and Darby Allin have had in AEW. I didn't realize this, but on the 8th episode ever of Dynamite back in 2019, Moxley beat Darby Allin in a little over 11 minutes. And then Darby got a shot at Jon Moxley's world title during the pandemic era at Daly's place. It was July 30th, and they went 14 and a half minutes. Moxley is up 2-0 in this feud. So we'll see what happens next week at Arthur Ashe. The main event, to me, I don't know what will actually be the main event, but the thing that carries the most weight as a longtime fan of these guys is a match that we thought we would never really see again.
Yeah,
Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness. It's going to happen next week at Grand Slam. It's a pretty crazy opportunity for Nigel McGuinness because a lot of us felt like once upon a time, hey man, he's moving on to the next phase of his career. So to see him in the tights again at Wembley was amazing. And I think we all had our fingers crossed that this match would happen at some point. And now it's going to. What a crazy history these guys had in Ring of Honor. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to go out of your way to check out AEW on YouTube. They've got like a supercut of this entire series. If you missed it in Ring of Honor, you missed some great wrestling, and I expect even more of that next week in New York, Jim.
Big stage, big audience. Nigel is special. He's new and he's fresh again, and he's healthy. That's huge. So it's all working out. I think I like that combination. Those two guys have great chemistry, and chemistry is so important in a match. But it'll be a great wrestling match, Connie, or Bull, or Connie, Bull. You don't even look like Bull.
Well, Bull is with us today, and I think he's with us because he knows that you and I are going to be tearing up some Home Chef in a little bit. Hey, here's the deal. We all dread that what should we have for dinner question. It's a conversation that used to be a regular conversation in my household. And well, we usually wound up just ordering takeout. It's never really satisfying. We wind up spending too much money on it. And we know it's not all that good for us either. But Home Chef provides fresh ingredients and chef design recipes conveniently delivered to your doorstep to truly simplify your cooking experience. Whether you prefer classic meal kits with pre-portioned ingredients and easy instructions, speedy recipes ready in less than 30 minutes, oven-ready kits with pre-chopped ingredients, or microwave meals that assemble in minutes, Home Chef has you and the entire family covered for delicious meals without the hassle. Home Chef has over 30 options a week and serves a variety of dietary needs, so you don't have to worry about what to make ahead of time. So not only is it convenient, it's economical too. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. And by the way, Home Chef even has a delicious kid-friendly family menu with 18 new options each week. It is picky eater approved and takes the stress out of dinner time. So for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 18 free meals plus free dessert for life. And
that's amazing. Of course,
free shipping on your first box. Go right now to homechef.com/JR. That's homechef.com/JR for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. You heard that right. homechef.com/JR. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Jim, you want to get mine and your attention? Just throw a little free dessert for life verbiage out there. I'm dialed in.
No, me too, buddy. Me too. That's a good company. Home Chef really is a good sponsor because they deliver. As a matter of fact, on this offer here now, there's a free shipping option. So what do you got to lose? 18 free meals, free shipping, dessert for life. It's too good to turn it down. And the quality is good. You'll see that on your first bite. So I'm really happy that they're with us and sponsoring our show. It's a good company. They're good people. I think you guys will love them. And if you got dietary needs like me, I watch my sugar intake. So you can work around that real easily. So they give us a lot of options for us kind of picky eaters. You know, I grew up with a Southern mom, and like yours, Conrad, she was a hell of a cook. And so I'm spoiled. I know what's good, what isn't. And the food that I've gotten from Home Chef is always good.
Yeah, it is. Check it out if you haven't already. homechef.com/JR. About 18 free meals, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Go do it. homechef.com/JR.
Yeah, good Jim, stuff, Connie.
There's lots of other news and notes that we should talk about in the wrestling space. It's a little thing, but I wanted to see if you saw and what you thought of SmackDown when it returned to USA. Not only this past Friday did we see a fun show with SmackDown back on USA, but we ended the show with credits. We've never seen that before.
Yeah.
But as the show was going off the air, it threw up their executive producers, Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting. Now, there weren't any other credits given, like a traditional movie or television show or what have you. But we've never seen executive director like that before on WWE programming. And famously, back in the day on WCW pay-per-views, we would see credits, but that's not normally been something the WWE has done. I know they did during the Slammies once upon a time and slipped in kayfabe, which was fun. But what do you make of them? Give it a little shout out to the executive producers, Triple H and Lee Fitting.
I think it's good. You know, it makes it a more legitimate television show. It gives the flowers to those that deserve it and are responsible for the look and all that. I read an article the other day, it might have been on X, used to be known as Twitter, that the people in charge should get credit. They should get their flowers, as they say. So I'm all for it. I think it's a good thing. I'd like to see all pro wrestling shows give credit to the executives that help put it on the air. because their job is insurmountable. Sometimes they can't win for losing. And then once they go through the curtain, they go through the gorilla position and head to the ring. It's all up to the talent. And as I said here many times, and I truly mean it, this group of talent, of all the years I've been in wrestling, which is 50 years this year, I've never seen a group of talent band together to deliver at the right moment. I think that'll happen in Arthur Ashe. I damn sure think it's going to happen in Seattle. So it's a good thing, man. I like it. I think it's you got to acknowledge those that are steering the wagon and at the front of the line. So I like it. To me, it makes it more of a real TV show.
Talk to me a little bit about, the way Raw is going to be changing. We're going to be moving from a 3-hour Raw to a 2-hour Raw for the duration of their run on USA. And it's even been made plain that, hey, it's going to be a 2-hour show for Netflix as well. What do you think? I mean, is that going to have a major impact on the business, or is it just a preference for fans? Like, will more people stick with a 2-hour show than they do a 3-hour show, do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think a 2-hour show is easier to write and produce, quite honestly. So we'll see. Time will tell, obviously. I know it's cliche. I'm not giving you a great answer, but I know from writing TV that doing a 2-hour show is a little bit easier. Now, it becomes daunting and challenging because you got to leave somebody off. Who's going to make air? But there's ways of doing that, and I'm looking forward to it. I think a fast-paced 2-hour show has a lot of merit and should be good. I'm glad that, unless it's a pay-per-view like we're doing in Tacoma, I think it's a smart move. I really do. I think it's a very smart move.
The other thing that we've learned is the 2-hour opportunity for Monday Night Raw on Netflix is going to have commercials. And I guess that was one of the things that attracted Netflix to the WWE opportunity is, as we all know, by and large, they don't actually usually do commercials. But that's going to be unavoidable on Monday Night Raw. And I assume that will also mean that we'll have some more sort of sponsored in-game content, if you will.
Yeah.
Like for years, we've seen you guys incorporate sponsors into the programming. And we've certainly seen more of that under Nick Khan than we did in the last several years. But I mean, even back in the 90s, I mean, you had talent playing with the Karate Fighters and Sable running around doing laser tag with Jerry Lawler. I mean, so these opportunities have existed for a while. But maybe the integration of those products into the programming is one of the things that Netflix was attracted to. I think I'm okay with that. I don't know television wrestling without commercials, Jim, so I'm not up in arms on this.
I'm not either. It's on every other TV show.
Yeah.
So it's not something like you don't see or it's what's going on. They're playing a pizza commercial. Because you can bet your ass there'll be a lot of pizza commercials. And we're in a season where that's prevalent, for example. But there's a lot of ways to integrate the talent into a television show. I can think of 10 or 20 ideas off the top of my head, but you can still get the exposure and a short attention span type scenario. And so I think that's a good idea. Let's give it a shot and see how it works out. I'd like to see everybody doing more of those in program events, shall we say. I remember the Sable stuff very well, obviously. But she was really good at that. And she understood her role. So when the talents get over the shock that they're not going to be wrestling every week on Monday nights, I think they'll come up with some great ideas. The smart thing for the talent is to suggest ideas of things that they can do that tie into the programming.
Yes.
And, help. What's your idea? As Ernie Ladd would say, don't come to TV with like a cabbage, all head and no rear end. That was Ernie's saying back in the day. So there's a lot of ways to get you on television. The key thing is suggest things and then deliver. Deliver. So and the fans love that shit. I do too. I really do.
My IT guy back in the day used to say something, Jim, that I know would make you laugh. He used to say, "You've tried nothing and you're all out of ideas." I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, another thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I know we've spent a lot of time talking about WWE. We are going to move on here, but Jim was in a unique position there for quite a while, and things are changing over yonder. So I wanted to bring it up. There's been a report come down that WWE is going to be scaling back house shows. I guess last year they ran close to 300 live events. This year they're going to run close to 250. Next year they're going to be closer to 200. I guess we've reached a point of diminishing returns, and there's been a paradigm shift where, I guess Vince ran these shows a lot of times in an effort to just break even.
Right.
And some of these shows were money losers. And as the contract values of talent go up and up, it probably does become a losing proposition. So if you're really just looking at the bottom line and trying to deliver shareholder value, I can understand the elimination of live events. However, I do think that might mean the end of an era for professional wrestling. Like television wrestling is different from a non-televised event. Like when the TV cameras are there, hey man, the show is for them. And when the cameras aren't there, well, those shows are for the folks in the building. And so they're going to be able to have a little more fun, not have as hard of a time. And they don't have to worry about all the different beat points they have to have on the story. They can just have fun. And as a kid, some of the most fun I had at wrestling were the non-televised events where they were really playing to the crowd and getting the local cheap heel heat and the boos and interacting with fans in the crowd. And if WWE starts to lay off more and more of these house shows, and AEW is not even really running house shows right now, it might mean a larger change to just the way wrestling's being done. What do you make of this report that they're scaling back house shows?
Well, I can understand from a financial standpoint, they're expensive to run. You still got all those airplane tickets and all that stuff. So it's a challenging thing. But the key thing, I think, just for me, from my perspective, my background, it gives the talents a chance to get better. They're in the ring. It's a live scrimmage, shall we say? It's a preseason game. It's whatever you want to call it. But to me, it's a good thing to keep those talents busy and working. And I think you said, what did you say this year? They're going to do 200 house shows.
Yep, they're going to have not 200 house shows, including television. They're going to do 200 shows next year.
That's a lot of television.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
So I don't see it making a huge difference, other than it gives your talent a chance to practice. And you're talking practice, and I am, because I think it's good. You also, some guys just are more comfortable on the road than they are at home. Sad to say, but it's true. So I'm glad they're not eliminating the live events, because they're needed to get your talent to improve and get better at what they do for a living. So I don't think we're going to, as fans, I don't think we're going to notice much difference. It's just that they're not going to be so readily available. And that's never a bad idea, to keep the fans wanting more. And so they've done a good job with that. They've done a good job with the live events. I don't know if they're making any money. I really don't. I hope they are. But for the talent's sake and the company's sake and all that stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves.
There's a lot of other news and notes going on right now, but one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention, I'm not sure if you even saw it, but Kevin Nash had some comments about Logan Paul, and Logan Paul made a response video, and that all went viral, where Logan Paul was basically saying, in response to Kevin Nash's criticism of him and his lack of knowledge of wrestling and the gigantic contract he had, Logan was basically F you, I don't even know who you are, to Kevin Nash. What'd you make of this exchange?
Shouldn't have been made public. I don't think. Who did it help?
Right.
It didn't help Logan Paul. So, and I don't know that it helped WWE. We're talking about it, so maybe it did, and we're just not acknowledging it. But I would have probably preferred, if I was involved in talent relations, for the talent should be smart enough not to light fires that they can't address. So, in other words, Connie, they're shooting an angle that'll never happen.
Okay.
And that's a waste of time. There's a million things Logan Paul, who's still trying to get over, and he's a hell of a hand. But they're still I don't know how it helps everybody. And as you're doing something on your own, it shows you where Logan Paul's head is. But the issue is, this the old school guys would tell me, we're shooting an angle. I remember vividly one of the early times that we did interviews with Cornette, who had a birthday a few days ago. So happy birthday, Corny. But he's still brilliant. There's no doubt. Most brilliant manager I've ever been around, he and Paul Heyman. I had a lot of fun working with those guys. But Corny is special. There's no doubt. He's very special. The first time I saw him wrestle in an angle, I was shocked of how good he was. And he is really good at that. Those days are gone, but nonetheless, I have great memories of them. And it adds to the Cornette legacy without question. I just love the guy. I know he's controversial and he stirs up the shit, but that's the business he's in right now. He wants, like us, he wants people to tune in and click on and help us monetize our projects. These things that we're doing are not cheap. And it costs money to do these deals. So it's insane to say that, but I miss a lot of the things Cornette did. He was great on the booking committees. Always had ideas, and he added, believe it or not, he added logic to what we were doing, because he understood the business, understood the art of being a villain and being a hero, and the qualifications that are needed in both those two distinctly different eras or jobs. So as you could tell, it's a little belated birthday, thanks, but Corny's been a great contributor to the business for years. And I know he stirs the shit, and so be it. Doesn't bother me, because he's not doing anything other than getting clicks, and his website and his podcasts are very successful. So good for him, and he's a Hall of Fame guy. Whether he makes it or not remains to be seen. You talked about the credits a moment ago. One of the reasons that the credits weren't used is the bookers didn't want the notoriety to go to anyone other than them. Do you remember when UWF had the graphic up that said presented by Cowboy Bill Watts, or
yep,
and it was only Bill got on the credits.
Yep.
So that was just the booking. Look at the Von Erich situation. They had, sometimes they'd run credits and sometimes they wouldn't. It seems to me, like, from memory. But this, I think it was a booker thing. Egocentric bookers didn't want anybody else to get credit for the creative on the show when it was a team effort. The Cowboy wasn't ready to change into that modern era of that.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other news and notes that are happening right now. And one of the things I've seen, even this morning as we're recording, is that Sheamus has re-upped with WWE. Given the run that WWE is on right now, I'd be surprised if, a lot of talent weren't interested in sort of re-upping there. But at the same time, I wonder, do you think that the pay scale might change now with TKO leadership? Like, that hasn't been a report we've heard that guys are getting quote unquote low balls. No one has said that or suggested that. But people who went through this corporate takeover, if you will, of UFC several years ago, that was their experience. They reported that, hey, they put us all in these Reebok kits and we could no longer sell our sponsorship on our trunks and our fight gear. And that was a big source of revenue. And we haven't really heard that yet from TKO. Do you think that, it's going to take something larger to the industry like AEW or what have you to affect the pay scale? I know you helped negotiate a lot of those contracts. I'm wondering where you land on, this TKO initiative and how it might change.
Well, the monies are, and WWE right now are subject to discussion, but the guys got big guarantees. So, and they get those checks every week or every other week when they're paid. So I don't see a big issue in that. They got their name on a contract. It's all on paper. They know what they're getting. And I think that's a good thing. You can do a budget. You can plan your life a little bit better if you know how much money's coming in. It's important in that respect. And money's always cash and creative. The two C's. You can't run away from it because that's just the way that it is.
Well, here's something that's the way it is. There's a real life hack out there, a cheat code that my wife and Double J and I've turned a lot of people on to, and I can't wait to tell you about it. Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fats or carbs. And then it gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, and even your stress management. All you got to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, meaning whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. And then Lumen will give you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and even your meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. And here's why metabolic health matters. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of literally everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits like easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, even better mental clarity, and so much more. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health with each breath. And they actually make recommendations that are designed to improve your pre and post-workout fueling for better performance and recovery. So you can power through your tougher workouts and even add on muscle mass. And my wife in her real life, but she's not putting up with my ass, is in the medical research business. So she's on top of the newest innovations. And when we first got a Lumen to vet for this podcast, she was blown away that this exists. And the picture she painted for me is one you've probably seen before. It might even be in a 50 Cent video. But it's like a guy in a doctor's office hooked up to a bunch of wires and cords, and the doctor's walking around him carrying a clipboard as the dude's just wearing out a treadmill wearing a mask. All of that was done and scheduled and hooked up so they could get a reading and do what a Lumen does. But you don't need to schedule an appointment or go down to the doctor's office or get hooked up to a bunch of gear. You don't need a doctor for this. You need a Lumen right by your bedside, right on your desk. Just throw it in your bag. You take a breath, boom, hold it for 10 seconds. It tells you exactly when you breathe out what's going on with your body and what you need to do to get the most out of it. Here's another example. My wife knows a doctor who's lost 45 pounds with a Lumen. Now, this fella knows everything he needs to know about sugars and carbohydrates and all that, but he was reading it out of a textbook. How does that actually apply to him personally, his body? Another one of her friends used to do this 18-hour fasting routine, but she found out with Lumen that she needed to cut her fast off before hour 12. At 12 hours, this friend of Megan's, her metabolism started to go the other way. So for the next 6 hours she was fasting, she was undoing what she did the first 12 hours. This is a real life hack to know what's going on with your body in real time. And I want you to take a look. If you're ready to take the next step in improving your health, go right now to lumen.me/grillingjr. You'll get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/grillingjr for 15% off your purchase. And we thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring today's episode.
Yeah, what a fabulous concept. What a fabulous concept. I had 2 doctor's appointments this week, and it's amazing that how much information, new information that I'm getting about my I got to treat diabetes too. I got this skin cancer wound. It's no cancer anymore, but there's an issue there as far as the wound healing. 22 radiation treatments, as I have grown to know, tears your ass up. I got an ugly scar on my tibia down by my ankle, left ankle. And then you add my hip surgery, for God's sakes. I feel like a bionic man. Got to get put back together. But it's all working if you follow your doctor's orders. But what you need is information. That's why when you go to a doctor, they'll check your vitals. I have a nurse that comes to my home every week, and she always, the first thing she does is check all my vitals, blood pressure, blood sugar. And I got one of those little disc things on my arm. So that's, it tells me on my phone what my blood sugar is. And that's so important if you got those issues. So this is a novel idea. Somebody was really thinking when they created this product, and you can get it here now for 15% off. That's a great savings. And all you're getting is new information. It may help save your life. You never know. So I'm a big supporter of Lumen. And like you, Conrad, I'm so happy that they're one of our sponsors.
Check it out, lumen.me/grillingjr. It's going to get you 15% off. Buddy, it's a deal. You're going to love it. I'm telling you, my wife is like over the moon for this product. Double J feels like he's got more energy. Man, it's a real life hack. It's a cheat code. Go check it out. lumen.me/grillingjr.
Well, you got that Jeff Jarrett on your mind today. You turned him on, and that got my attention.
Well, we just talked about Lumen a lot yesterday because he was just settling into his, and he was, he's a big fitness dude, and he was blown away with the difference. I mean, this technology feels like some George Jetson stuff is the way it's been explained to me. Like, how is this real? Hey,
daughter Judy, his boy Elroy.
I do want to ask you about some other news and notes in the wrestling space. But before we do, we've got a live studio audience here from adfreeshows.com. And we actually got together, you and I did, over All Out weekend in Chicago for another unforgettable Top Guy weekend in Chicago. It was full of panels, surprise guests, meet and greets, and maybe my favorite, just fellowshipping. And you and I had some fun up on stage watching back some crazy, funny, bowling shoe ugly promos.
Yeah.
And
that was fun.
We just had a blast. We've got a clip here that I want to share with everybody from Top Guy Weekend.
This is my second Top Guy Weekend. Never being to Chicago has been an absolute blast.
It's been a fantastic weekend. I had tons of fun. My favorite part probably was meeting Downtown Bruno. That was completely unexpected. Great guy, and it was a lot of fun having that panel.
We've been surprised. The talent here has been amazing.
This is my first time, and I have literally had one of the best weekends of my life. Seeing the vintage belts was unforgettable. I highly recommend this if you're a wrestling fan.
Tons of fun. There's so much to do here. So many different panels. So many people to see. From David Crockett to Eric Bischoff, Jeff Jarrett, and
like Disneyland for a wrestling fan. Holding the actual big gold belt that Ric Flair had. Get to meet all of our idols and our heroes.
me and my dad have always been really close. But with ad-free shows and the Top Guy weekends, it's brought us even closer. We get to hang out every year. We plan this all in advance. You know, that's our trip every year. So not only did I have a great relationship with my dad before, I have a better relationship with ad-free shows. I bullshit with him. I just staying for the beer. It's a get-together, but for us, it's a family event as well. You know, we're all family, and it's just great to catch up with everybody. It's one of the funnest weekends of the year. I recommend anybody who's a fan come out next time to join us.
like you said, we've been a lot closer. But still, I only came for the beer.
Join us at adfreeshows.com.
There was plenty of beer there, Conrad.
Plenty of beer.
So he did well, the gentleman. I had a blast with it. I love those meet and greets.
Yes.
I do. I enjoy meeting the fans. Sometimes it's just kind of like a matter of fact finding, so to speak, doing research, because you find out what they like or what they remember most, what was most significant in their wrestling fandom. And if I was a fan, and I am, and I wasn't associated with any company, this is an event that I would have to go to. It's just, like that fella said, it's a wrestling fans Disneyland. It's all there, so it's good. So, you've done a great job creating that event, Conrad, and it's a fan-driven situation. I signed pictures from people all over the country, some from out of the country, and they were there. They wanted to meet me, which is humbling, quite frankly. So it was a great weekend. I had a lot of fun. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you invited me.
Well, don't miss another Top Guy event. Become a Top Guy member now at adfreeshows.com and join us in Alabama this January for the Top Guy Rumble, where you get to step in the ring and be trained by Dr. Tom. And then you get to help book and take part in our very own private wrestling show. We're going to cap it off by watching the Royal Rumble together with games, prizes, and a ton more. What are you waiting for? Sign up now at adfreeshows.com. Or you're going to find more than 100,000 hours of bonus content, including series you can't find anywhere else, from names like Lex Luger and David Crockett and Tully Blanchard and The Godfather and Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick and our pal Sam Adonis, who's teaching us all about wrestling south of the border in a show we called Learning Lucha. Check it out at adfreeshows.com. We've got a live studio audience here with us, and Jim, they know you well. Bobby wants to know, how do you think OU will play against Tennessee this weekend? Great to see you again, Boomer Sooner.
Well, I back at you. I'd like to say that Oklahoma's got more than a fighting chance to upset a better team, but they're playing at home. They're playing at night. They're playing on national television. So all those things count. But I believe the best bet on the card is Tennessee in the points. Given the points. I think it's 7 right now. I'm not sure. But they're great. And Josh Heupel was our quarterback when we won the last national championship. He'll be coaching there for the first time. It's an SEC game. It may be a record crowd of well over 80,000. I'm just glad I'm not traveling where I can watch it. I'd love to be there. And, I still might show up. You never know. But in any event, I like Tennessee and give them the points on this one. But it should be a hell of a game. Oklahoma's had issues in the secondary with their DBs, and Tennessee's blessed with a lot of really talented receivers. And I think that's going to be problematic as the game goes on.
Next week, Jim, is going to be a big game for Alabama. We're going to be hosting #1 Georgia Bulldogs. The defending back-to-back national champions are coming to Tuscaloosa for the first time in a long time. And this time they'll be facing a Nick Saban-less Alabama. If you had to guess, if you had to bet, what would you expect to see next weekend?
What is the spread?
I don't think it's out yet because they haven't played this week.
Oh, okay. Because I hadn't seen it. I expect Georgia to be a small favorite, maybe 3. We're going to find out just how good Georgia is. And I think we all know that they're really good. But I'm impressed with the new Alabama coach. He's buttoned up, and everything's tight, and it seems to make sense what he does, the plays they call, and so forth. So I hate to pick against Alabama at home. That to me is suicide. If you're a bettor. And I'm glad I'm not, because I'd probably be spending a lot of money on these these websites that do betting, gambling. And I love that aspect of the football. I think it adds to the game, quite frankly. The spread is talked about, like right now.
It's interesting, too, because 2 weeks out, it's so different. Like Bally has right now, Georgia as a 1.5 point favorite, but DraftKings has them as a 4.5 point favorite, and FanDuel has Georgia as a 2.5 point favorite. So you're all over the board from 1.5 to 2.5 to 4.5, but all eyes are going to be on Tuscaloosa next week. And as we look back to Chicago, Andrew Miller, who's a part of our live studio audience, has a question. He says, after meeting him at Top Guy Weekend, what have your interactions with Harvey Wippleman been like over the years? The real life downtown Bruno Lauer. What can you tell us about Bruno? He worked behind the scenes for WWE forever, man.
Yeah. And Harvey was such a valuable asset. You know, everybody needs things. They need cigarettes, or they need something, whatever it may be. And Harvey was always right on the spot. And if you needed something, he'd ask you 2 or 3 times during the day, do you need anything? He's a team player all the way, and a good guy. He didn't get the respect that he probably had earned. I think maybe we might say that his job was taken for granted by some, and that's not good. But he was a valuable member of our team, Conrad. I'm sure glad he was there to help me when I needed it, and he'd offer little suggestions here, there, and yon. But a good guy, hard worker, reliable as hell, and that's what I loved. One of the things I loved about Harvey, he's just a likable, good person. And he's still thankful, as am I, to still be in the wrestling business. Because those appearances, he could be booked on appearances every weekend if he wanted to. He's very amenable to meeting people and talking. So it's good. But I'm glad he was there, and I just hope that he stays in good health, and we see more of Harvey Wippleman in different areas as we can.
Yeah, well, I think we'll be seeing more of Harvey Wippleman. I do want to ask you about somebody we have been seeing a lot more of, and that's JBL. He showed up over the weekend at Center Stage in downtown Atlanta to make the save for Brock Anderson. Brock is teaming with CW Anderson, his cousin, and they're having a lot of fun.
Wink, wink.
And they're having a lot of fun in MLW. But so far, we've seen JBL, take over a Triple Mania. And then we've seen him show up in TNA. We've seen him at GCW. We've seen him at OVW. Now we've seen him at MLW. This is like a Clothesline from Hell World Tour. What do you think about JBL spreading out a little bit here?
Well, he's a marketing genius, Conrad. He's got himself relevant without being on AEW or WWE television. And that's not easy.
Right.
So I admire his fortitude as far as wanting to get relevant again. Relevancy creates cash, without question. So I think John's a very much a underrated guy, and he's creating a need to see him if he's booked on an indie show. Because hell, all he's got to do, he doesn't have to wrestle. He's an attraction.
Yes.
And as long as he can deliver that clothesline, Conrad, that's what they come to see anyway. He'll knock somebody's head off. And boy, he's physical too, and smart. And as I said, reliable. He's a businessman, and he knows how to get things done. And I'm glad he's back in the game, so to speak.
It's interesting because, he hasn't wrestled a match yet. I mean, he's only shown up in jeans and cowboy boots and a hat and a duster. He's not cut a bunch of promos. He's never been advertised. I mean, I don't think I've seen him advertised anywhere. It's always been a surprise appearance. So I know that there's some internet fans who are saying, oh, he must need a payday. Hey, here's a spoiler. John Layfield doesn't need a payday. But
yes, right.
But I am curious, where do you think this is going? Do you think, he's
boredom? I think it's boredom. He loves the wrestling business, and he's bored sitting on the sideline. He believes that he can be relevant again. He believes he can continue to develop his in-ring persona. And I love the surprise aspects of not knowing where he's going to show up. I know it's counterproductive or counter psychology because we're trying to sell tickets to tell people what we got. You know, I when I got that assignment yesterday about coming to Arthur Ashe and coming to Seattle, or excuse me, Tacoma for the pay-per-view, it got my blood flowing really well. I'm excited as hell about it. So, because it's still something I love to do. Back to John Layfield, this is something that he loves to do. And you can say, well, why not? He's, you know, all he's doing is a clothesline. But that's what people come to see. That's what they come to see. And his finish hold, that clothesline, it's easy for a green indie guy or an overweight indie guy or whatever to take. It hurts, but it's not. You got to have a special skill to get clotheslined. And John's really good at it. He's good psychology. So I'm happy that he's doing well. If he's happy at this stage of his life, like you said, he doesn't need the money. He made a lot of money and he's been investing well over the years. He's very bright in that area. So I'd like to, you know, hey, him making a surprise appearance for AEW somewhere down the road doesn't bother me. I think it might be a cool idea depending on who he's going to pair up with. And we got lots of guys that can take clotheslines.
What do you think the payoff is going to be here? Do you think we see him, you know, do like a farewell tour with WWE, or is it more likely that we would see him show up in Japan, or is it possible he might show up in AEW one day? There's a lot of fans out there who believe that, oh, he's secretly under WWE contract. He's a lifer, which I get why people would say that. I mean, he has been there forever. Would it be surreal to you to see JBL in an AEW ring?
No, not at all. I think it's a good idea because he adds to the presentation. He gives you a memorable moment in the ring in front of all the fans. And memorable moments are, try to say that 3 times fast, memorable moments are what we look for. Because you're not going to remember every wrist lock and every headlock in the show. They're important to the process, no doubt. However, it just adds a new element. And as we have said here on the show many times, and I believe it's part of my credo, as they say, I think that surprises are very special, and our fans love surprises. And John showing up and doing his thing is certainly certainly a surprise, and a fitting surprise. I'm not saying that he should be full-time, because I don't even know if he wants to be full-time. But I do think that on a special occasion, him making an appearance would be much talked about.
Let's talk a little bit about somebody else who made some headlines, who we thought maybe we were going to get one last match out of. It's come out that Mick Foley has said that he's officially scrapped his plans of doing a match, one last match, if you will, around his 60th birthday. He thought once upon a time maybe it would be a motivator to get himself back in shape, but, well, he's made the decision that maybe that's not best for my long-term livelihood or enjoyment of life and quality of life. Maybe I should not do that.
Long-term, this should not be used in this analogy, because his body's not long-term worthy. And I'm not knocking. I love Mick. I did a long interview the other day. I think I mentioned for the dark side of the ring, and the topic was Mick. And I had a million Mick Foley stories. And you know, one of my favorite hires on a personal level, because I had to battle so hard to get him work. Vince didn't like him. He didn't like his look, but Undertaker liked him. And when I suggested Mick and Undertaker, Undertaker's eyes lit up. Because he was needing fresh opponents. And this got him a fresh opponent who was 6'4", 300 pounds. He could sell for, and Mick knew how to work. So I'm glad he's not doing that match. Where are you going to do it that's going to mean the most? You need to do it on pay-per-view, I think. And because to me, it's very marketable. And would be very desirable to see, but I don't trust his body anymore. And like I said, I love him. He's been a credit to the business. If everybody had his work ethic and his character and integrity, they'd be better off in our business. He's so reliable. I know I use that word a lot, but think about it. If I don't know you're going to be there, well, he may show up and he may not. There's wrestlers that have that reputation. I don't want to hire them. I don't need to work with them because they're just passing through. Pick the low hanging fruit and move on. So, but Mick can still add to a television show as long as he can talk, and he can talk well. So, I'm a Mick Foley advocate from the get go because the battle to get him hired was so aggressive, and I kind of pushed my limits with Vince on that one. And at the end of the day, it was a good hire, a great hire.
I do want to ask you about Mick and WWE, but before I do, you mentioned what a great talker Mick is. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But when he was talking about his last match and what he had in mind, he loved the idea of trying to have that last match against someone like MJF because he felt like those promos and the story they could tell together would have been pretty awesome. What do you think of Mick's hypothetical pick? If he were to do one more match, he would have liked for it to been against MJF.
I'd watch it. I'd love to call it. MJF's a real good. MJF is a classic example of what a chicken shit heel is. You know, he cheats at every turn in the road to gain an unfair advantage, and I think that's a cool idea. And the promos would be priceless. The build up to the match would be priceless. And then you have one match and you put MJF over and you move on. That's my opinion. I think, and Mick's going to be the attraction, and his last match but we've worn that shit out, man. I don't know if the fans even buy it anymore. It's like it's like a hair match and getting a trim and not getting your head shaved. It's been compromised and not in a good way.
I want to ask you something else about old school wrestling, and man, maybe you'd be inclined to have an opinion. MLW just recently formed a nice little faction. I mentioned a few moments ago that Brock Anderson, the son of Arn Anderson, is teaming with his cousin, C.W. Anderson. And they've had a lot of fun on some independents, but now they've created a new faction with Bobby Fish and Brett Ryan Gosselin, and they're now the Rogue Horsemen in MLW. And I know that MLW has done Extreme Horsemen once upon a time with Simon Diamond and C.W. Anderson and Steve Corino. That was like 20 years ago. But the Rogue Horsemen, it does feel like an homage and a tip of the cap. And I know that C.W. Anderson's always believed they're honoring the Horsemen. But what do you think about a more modern version of the Horsemen? And you've got the real life son of the founder, the creator of the Horsemen, Arn Anderson's son, Brock Anderson, in MLW.
He's a good kid. I like Brock.
Agree.
He's respectful and he's nice and he's reliable. And he's getting a great education just sitting in the car with his dad. Because nobody has more respect for Arn Anderson than me. I know he's on your air. He's the fact that he's doing a podcast is shocking to me. I guess it's still rolling along, and he seems to be more active on social promoting it. So I think that's a good thing. But as long as they can make it different, it's got a different look and a different feel. So in other words, I would not get a Ric Flair look-alike.
Right.
You can't replicate Ric Flair. So I don't need a blonde wearing suits and Rolex watches guy. But so my point is, as long as the new Horsemen, shall we say, sake of lack of a better term, I think they, as long as they have their own uniqueness, they got their own personality. And I think that's the key to the success of that group. And of course, inevitably, I've never seen it not happen. At least probably there's some illustration, but a lot of times when you have a faction, Conrad, you have a star that's going to break loose. Now that star may be Brock Anderson. He's young and he's trained, again, he's got every quality that a promoter would want, and he's got great lineage. So he's been taught well. So I as long as they can have their own personality and be a little bit different, and not try to do lookalikes or things of that nature, playing the role of Arn Anderson is, that kind of thing.
Right.
Those guys are irreplaceable. And so I think it's an insult to the fans to try to copy something that they've already seen. Just doesn't make any sense to me.
Let's talk a little bit about a big announcement that happened earlier in the week. It's coming down the pike that Saturday night's main event is back. I can't believe this is a real thing, but somehow WWE is back on NBC. And on December 14th in Long Island, New York, they'll be presenting Saturday night's main event. And as I understand it, that's going to be simulcast on both NBC and Peacock. What do you make of this announcement here that Saturday night's main event is coming back?
Well, before I got to WWE, I was an avid watcher of their TV product, and I always looked forward to the Saturday night's main event. They had some moments there. It was a place where you knew you were going to have a big audience. Let's shoot some angles. Let's see what we can get over. And so and it's a new program. There's a whole audience out there that they weren't even born when the Saturday night's main event was created. I know I was brought back to WWE after one of my absences, contract issues, so forth. But anyway, I made it too complicated. That's my fault. But I went back and did a Saturday night's main event. It seemed like it was from Detroit, and I had been off for quite some time. But because they were having mixed talents on the show, they thought that I would be a good fit there because I wasn't affiliated with Raw or SmackDown at that time. So I think it's a good idea. It's fresh. It's new. I think if they play up the history of the event, all the things that happened on it, and the stars that appeared and were made largely on Saturday night's main event, it'll give the event itself more credence and more spotlight. So hey, give it a shot, man. See what happens. I'm not against any of that. I think that they may find a hit, and I would bet if it hits, they would do one maybe once a quarter, something like that. But it would have a rotation that didn't overexpose it.
Let's talk about somebody else who hasn't been overexposed just yet. He just recently made his WWE commentary debut. Joe Tessitore is now steering the ship for Monday Night Raw, and it's something that I have been waiting to sort of pick your brain about. Have you seen any of his work in WWE, and what do you think of these first efforts that you've seen so far?
I've only seen a clip or two, Conrad. I'm not boycotting. I just wasn't at the front of the television at that time. But I think he does a great job for somebody that just showed up. I haven't heard the internet world go crazy that he doesn't understand, like Mike Adamle, for example. God bless Mike. But I guess apparently Joe Tessitore is a fan and had a decent knowledge of what's going on and what pro wrestling's all about. So a good hire, it seems like. And they still got good teams. I think that, hey, isn't that kid that's on your air, Sam Adonis? He's the brother of
Corey Graves.
When I found that out late in the game, I would, I would stare at his face. It sounds weird. But he did. You can tell they're brothers.
Yes,
they have a resemblance.
Yeah, they favor.
They favor each other. So it's I think a good hire. These fresh voices are good. I think that's what helps me in AEW is I'm not on TV every week. So hopefully being on, regularly, but I don't know how to say it. I'm not there every week. And so hopefully when I'm there, it's special. I will do all I can physically and mentally to make it special. But that's the end of the day. That decision is going to be delivered by the fans and the ratings.
Let's talk about some other free agent news and notes, if you will. There was an interview that came out when Matt Riddle was doing a little media to promote MLW at Center Stage. And he was asked about the possibility of working with AEW. And he had mentioned that he had attended an AEW event and he met Tony Khan, but he's not sure Tony Khan liked him. I don't have any inside track or scoop whatsoever. Would you be surprised to see Matt Riddle in AEW? Do you think there's an opportunity for Matt in AEW?
I don't know if there's an opportunity there or not. If they decided Dave meaning AEW pronoun boy, I would suggest that he'd be given a shot. And I understand Tony's reluctance because Matt has a little baggage, and how much that baggage weighs, I don't know. But I know he's a very talented kid. Got a great look. He's got that Kevin Von Erich look. He wrestles barefoot, or usually when I saw him last, he was wrestling barefooted. And so I will never say never. I don't know that it's even on the drawing board. Have no idea. That's a Tony Khan thing. Nothing I'm involved in. And whatever Tony Khan does, I'll do my best to make it work in my role. So, but he's a look. You can't never turn your back on talented wrestlers who are still. I guess Matt Riddle's probably in his early 30s, late 20s. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, he's in his 30s.
But he looks good.
Yes, he does.
And he's got a unique style. He's got good charisma. So he brings something to the table. And I learned from the Cowboy many, many years ago, Bill hired guys that he didn't like at all, but he knew they drew money. So that was his priority, which it should have been. He was one-man band. So bringing guys in that would draw money would just help everybody on the card when you stop and think about it. A lot of guys made a lot of money during the Attitude Era thanks to Stone Cold and The Rock. But The Rock and Stone Cold made it the most. They were in main events. They were on top. But you can't discount the fact that it helps the whole roster because everybody in one way or the other shares in the payoff.
I do want to ask you about a few other names, but before we do, I want to ask, have you seen this AEW? I guess I said that wrong. With RJ City and Dean Malenko. Have you seen that?
You know what? I meant to watch it, and I did listen to a little of Malenko's hilarious.
The man of 1,000 positions. How great is that? and I feel like if he was here right now, he would manage to get us in a hold where I transitioned to BlueChew. Does BlueChew really work? If you're asking that question, we want you to know that BlueChew is putting their money where their mouth is. They're giving you a month free. BlueChew is an online service that delivers you the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. BlueChew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part? Well, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You can take them anytime, day or night. So plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. BlueChew wants men rock hard. They told me. That's the mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, until every tent is pitched, until every rod is raised. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try BlueChew free when you use our promo code JR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. The promo code is JR to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring today's podcast.
Yeah, and it works, folks. I can promise you it works. I'm 72 years old, and it works for me the occasions that I utilize it. And that just depends on having a partner. And I'm not ready to commit to one partner. Why would I want to start a relationship at my age, for God's sakes? But I'll tell you, it works. It's not going to hurt you. It has no down. To me, it doesn't have any downward traits. It's free the first month. That's a hell of a deal. $5 shipping. You're in the game for $5. So is that worth a try? I would say it is. So BlueChew's been with us since day one, and we love those folks. And again, Conrad and I are kind of picky on products that are on our air as far as do they work? Is it a service to the community, so to speak? And BlueChew certainly works and provides a great service. It's healthy, and we're healthier by being able to explore more readily our sexuality. So there you have it.
Check it out. Go right now, BlueChew.com. Use the promo code JR. Get your first month free. Just pay $5 shipping.
It's great.
Jim, a couple other free agents I want to touch on. There's a report out that Josh Alexander, who's been a staple for TNA for several years now and had an incredible run as their top guy, their world champion. It's come out that he's at least going to consider testing himself on the free agency market.
Smart.
And I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
No,
we know his longtime pal, Scott D'Amore. We're about a month away from him starting Maple Leaf Wrestling, which I encourage everybody to check out. I think it's October 19th, Maple Leaf Wrestling. But you got to assume that Josh Alexander, a talent like that, he's going to have interest from certainly TNA, probably New Japan, and I would think WWE or NXT or whatever, and AEW. Where would you imagine that a talent like Josh Alexander winds up?
Good talent. I wish him the best. He's very skilled. I would say, based on the lay of the land, he's headed to Maple Leaf Wrestling.
Okay.
And I have nothing to base that on other than just instinct. So I think that he'll help Scott D'Amore and look at that look. It's memorable, and the guy's talented, and he's got a good friend that's running a company. That's all I need to know.
Let's talk a little bit about another name that's out there that, boy, he had a title on YouTube that got everybody interested. I think Bobby Lashley posted something like Bobby Lashley's huge announcement or something like that. And the reveal was he's buying a big fancy motor coach for travel. But I think a lot of people were wondering, hey, if he's no longer under contract with WWE, what's next for Bobby Lashley? I'm not saying you have a crystal ball or any inside news, but do you think Bobby Lashley winds up back in WWE, or is he going to do a tour of duty outside, and where might that be?
Bobby's hard to figure. He's a complex guy. Talented, yes. Looks phenomenal. I remember vividly conversations with him on how he got paid. He just didn't grasp it. And the concept of discretionary monies. So it's up to the guy that's writing it down on paper what your payoff's going to be. Sometimes we were right, sometimes we were low, and sometimes we were generous. But it's discretionary. It's up to the decision of the individual making the payroll. For many, many years, I made the payroll at all the house shows, and I would write a form for the pay-per-views, and that's the only payroll that Vince looked at, pay-per-view, because that's where the most money was available to pay the talent. So it's hard to say, because Bobby, like I said, is very complex. He's a different cat, and he's smart. But sometimes smart people have a tendency to overthink things. And if Bobby's not in an overthink mode, which I have no idea, I haven't talked to him in years. But if he approaches it that way, he'll do good. He'll do really good, because he's going to be desirable. Like you said, Japan's an option. I don't know how the market is there. It's not like it used to be, but still you can go over there and make a decent payday. Scott D'Amore could use Bobby Lashley. I think AEW could use Bobby Lashley. But it's all a matter of the cash that you got to invest to get the talent on site, and then the creative that you're going to use to utilize it.
Let's talk a little bit about a major event that happened this past weekend. We're talking about UFC and the Spear, but before we do, one last name on this free agent discussion. Yeah. I saw an interview with Big Bill, who's done phenomenal work in AEW, and I think the entire wrestling community is pulling for him. He's the latest and greatest success story of pulling the nose up and having a second act and all those good things. But he also talked about his pal Enzo. He says, still good friends with Enzo. He's the effing man. Enzo is, and people ask me about Enzo all the time, and I tell them he might be the only person I know that's a one of one. And they ask, what do you mean? There's no one else like him on the planet. He is a one of one. You can't replicate him. He's an incredibly talented guy, man. One of one. He's a unique breed. I hope he gets another shot in pro wrestling. He's too talented to not. He's so clever, unique, wrote most of his own promos. He's just a funny guy. He's very clever. One of one. You know him when he walks in a room, and you know he's there without even looking. I can't say that about many other people I've come across. And when you go back and you look at clips, man, Enzo and Cass were over like Rover. And respectfully, when they were across the pond in Wembley recently for the AEW show, the entire audience is singing along for Big Bill. And I was watching with a bunch of friends here at the house, and I said, hey, they're singing for him based on his work with Enzo and Cass. I don't know necessarily that they're singing for him based on the work he's done in AEW. Not that he hasn't done a great job there, but I'm just saying the heights he and Enzo achieved as far as, connection with the fans, I don't think that's been matched recently. What do you think about the idea of Enzo in AEW? Do you think there's any possible way that happens in the future?
Yeah, of course. I think so. Why not? Like I said earlier, it's the same concept. You don't turn your back on talented people if they want to come and contribute to your company. And again, Enzo brings the little baggage, but he's colorful, he's talented, and the upside. I mean, he's not going to be a big investment to get on the roster, but over the long haul, he can certainly earn a lot of money. And he's got that look was very unique. But he's talented as hell. He was a middle of college football. He's an athlete and a good athlete. So why not give him a shot? You never know what's going to hit. And look at this. We'll put that slide back up there. Look at how he has outfitted himself. I think that's important to realize. He's thinking. He's trying to reinvent and be different. I've been a fan of Big Bill's for a long time. I made fun of his name backstage to his face. I said, "Man, they really gave you a hell of a nickname, right? Big Bill." But I guess it's working. But he's another guy. I said this one time in a meeting down in NXT years and years ago. You don't find seven athletic 7-footers every day. So if it takes you a little longer to coach them up, go coach them up. Because once you get to your destination, after coaching them up, you got something special. 7 feet tall, close to 300 pounds, athletic. He doesn't have 2 left feet. He doesn't stumble around like a Clydesdale. He's good. So that's another guy. You just don't turn your back on talented people. You figure out. You get your creative people to figure out a way. Look at that guy's look. And look is so special. It's so special. It's a look business that we are in. And if that's not a good look, I don't know what is. I'm sorry. I'll tag out and move on. But I think he's got a bright future as a single.
Yep.
But that could come from being tag partners with Enzo. You could evolve into that, and I think that's something to think about. So I like the fact I like adding new to the roster and new motivated, self-motivated talents that are looking for that hot tag back into the game. Enzo would fit that description.
Man, there's something else that's exciting happening over the weekend. In our rearview mirror now is the first sporting event inside the Sphere in Las Vegas. The UFC held a big pay-per-view extravaganza, and it was a different experience for sure. And it's one that I'm excited for a wrestling company to try. I mean, what a look this is. You can see at the very bottom of your screen, that's the octagon. And that's not the structure of the Sphere there. That's the video they chose to post. That's all LED board. So the experience and the opportunities are endless. And I'm curious, who do you think is the first wrestling company who's going to run this building? I mean, this is going to be a costly opportunity for sure, but man, wrestling in that building has got to be bananas. As a fan, I don't think I can miss that. The first time they do that, I got to be there. What say you?
Not sure I'd be there, but I understand what you're saying. You want to watch the event from the Sphere, and I understand that. I do too. I think Nick Khan will lead the way because all their Vegas connections, and it would surprise me if WWE was not the first company to go into the Sphere. But it has a very distinct, different look. It's kind of like Arthur Ashe in the sense that you run it once a year, maybe twice a year, max. So, but somebody will jump on it, and WWE has proven that they are generally the first jumpers. And but I think there'll be wrestling in the Sphere. And I think it'll be WWE first. And if that happens, then why would AEW zoom in and look like a copycat?
Yeah,
they wouldn't. There'd be some distance between it. So, I like it. Has a unique look. Why not try it? But it's going to be a very, WWE's got a huge production staff, much larger than AEW. The guys at AEW do a lot of multitasking and do more than one thing. So I like what's going on. I like the Sphere is another new. And as we said, fans love new. This would sure be new.
Let's talk about something else new. All of a sudden, it looks like Heels is on Netflix. Both season 1 and season 2 are now posted to Netflix. I watched these as they happened on Stars, and I think the show was canceled, and everybody wondered, where's the new home going to be? It is now available on Netflix. We know that we're just a week away, as you and I are recording this, from the new documentary about Vince McMahon on Netflix. That's coming out, as folks are listening to this, 6 days from now. And we know at the start of the year, man, it's WWE's own over there on Netflix. I wanted to bring up Heels to you, first of all, to see if you've seen it and what you thought of the series.
I never watched an episode, Connie, to be very perfectly honest with you. I have Stars, I think, on my cable system. But for some reason, they didn't promote it, the Heels being it, actively enough. They didn't reach enough of us wrestling fans to move forward with it. I didn't get motivated to emotionally invest in Heels. I would watch it. Now, after all the discussion about it being canceled and the people missing it and so forth, I probably would try it. But I don't know that I even get Netflix. That's how old. Get out of my yard, kid. I don't know. But any TV show that devotes its theme to our business, I'm for them succeeding. It just makes everything stronger. High tides raise all ships.
I wanted to ask you, what do you think about, we know once upon a time, Vince McMahon was dead set on creating WWE studios and WWE films. And there were a few that actually enjoyed some success. There was one that wasn't bad with Halle Berry. I thought that was pretty good. And I think people know the first Marine was successful, but there are a lot of misses. But that was certainly something that Vince thought he could cross over to. Now, with there being a paradigm shift in leadership, we're going to run fewer live events. We're going to offer, our television is now going to be on a streaming service. it does feel as if WWE could very easily start creating content for streaming services using their talent. Like, they know how to produce television. They know how to write. They know how to shoot. They know how to direct. They already have all of that in-house. Could you see a world where, yes, WWE is going to run fewer non-televised live events, but they're going to create more content on streaming platforms that doesn't involve necessarily a wrestling ring?
I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I think it's a done deal, so to speak. It's got to be vividly on the drawing board, because it's a natural progression. And if you look back at a lot of the new people that WWE has hired recently, and their management structure and the whole 9 yards, I think that it's a perfect fit, because they have a production team that's massive and bigger than any pro wrestling production team in history.
Yes.
So they got the bodies, and they got some talented bodies behind the scenes. And maybe we'll be seeing more credits, because those guys are going to play a huge role in the success and the longevity of WWE. So I think that's one of the things Nick Khan has brought in. I think he's motivated Triple H in that respect as well, to look at the big picture.
Yes.
Big picture. And the big picture in this particular case, how do we get more of our content on television? How do we get more of our content, our talents, our stars in front of the audience? It's so important to the advertisers. Because at the end of the day, it's what it's all about, ratings and advertising dollars and things of that nature. So they have a great opportunity to do that. And I know AEW is negotiating for a new deal, which I hope they get what they want. I kept up with it by what I read online. But I know that's at the top of the priority list for Tony Khan right now. New TV deal.
I want to talk about the TV deal, but I want to put a button on this heels conversation, because there was an interview that was posted from Variety, which is obviously an industry trade for all things Hollywood, where the creator of Heels says that he's had great conversations with WWE, and they're quote unquote big fans of the show. And should Heels continue at Netflix, because that is certainly the hope, that a lot of folks are going to see Heels for the first time. Maybe they didn't have the Stars app, but obviously a great deal more people have Netflix. So it is going to be exposed to a larger audience. So he's sort of suggesting, is there a universe where Heels is a new show again, and they sort of blend and blur the lines between WWE and the DWL, the fictional wrestling organization, in the Heels opportunity? It says, I think the really exciting thing is, if we're able to move forward with the show, we could more properly integrate the WWE into the storyline as the DWL becomes a competitor. So just the idea that all these things might be possible now that they're on Netflix is interesting when you think about the evolution of the business. And I know you mentioned the Tony Khan initiative is, hey, we got to get this new TV deal out there.
Right. It's going to happen. You know, we're very welcomed with our host,
yes.
Discovery. They love what we do, and here's the thing, man. It's a live, original programming. All those are key words in that world. Live, original programming. And I know wrestling's not original, but I'm talking about the brand and the talent evolution and so forth is new. And so I'm confident that's going to be a great deal, because again, you can't find a lot. You look at here's the thing, look at what the networks are paying for soccer. I'm not an anti-soccer person. You know, I'm an old school football guy. I admire and appreciate their athleticism and their talents and their athletes. But they got everything on television. Canadian football, CFL, different things. So I think that everybody's always looking for original live programming. And so that's what we offer. And I think that as long as it's produced episodically and episode this episode ties to the next episode, etc. I think that's important. So, and it gives more exposure to AEW, which is what they need right now.
There's been a lot of talk about this potential AEW television renewal, and there's even been recent reports that say that it's pretty much a done deal, that it's going to be a 3-year deal with an option for a 4th year. And they're even speculating the number to be in the $170 million range. Of course, nobody.
I read that.
Of course, nobody knows anything for sure. These are just preliminary reports. I mean, we've heard several weeks ago that there was going to be a pay-per-view component and that they might be featured on HBO Max. In certain parts of the world, you can already see AEW on HBO Max. I don't think you can domestically, but I'm just saying there's a lot of rumor and innuendo, but I don't really hear a lot of panic or concern from the AEW side of things. So it seems as if not only is this going to be business as usual, but AEW is headed towards some black ink. That's exciting news, isn't it, Jim?
Absolutely. I'm proud of Tony Khan. Congratulations to him if all this stuff comes together. I think that it will. Again, we're treasured. We're coveted as a brand to our TV partner. For the same reasons I said many times here today, live original programming. Don't ever forget that. And so it's a good thing. And I'm not against us not doing house shows or live events. Our talent should be fresher and more aggressive, more well rested than any talent in the country. And then how you display that is important. How you display that is you go out there and have amazing performances on Dynamite and Collision, and especially deliver on the pay-per-views. I'll debate anybody about the fact that talents at AEW take it to a different level on pay-per-views. I don't have an explanation for it, but they're young guys, they're fans. A lot of them are just old school wrestling fans, and they want to shine on that stage. And I hope they never change their attitude.
Well, I hope you never change your attitude either, Jim. We love getting to catch up with you and talk about what's going on in wrestling. I promise we are going to do this tease now, Clash of the Champions 8 episode. We'll be back next week to do that. But before we do that, we've got a few more questions from our live studio audience. And I want to give everybody a little pro tip. It's football season, and that means, by God, it's grilling season. If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Go check out jrsbbq.com. They got something for everybody. And I mean everybody. How about autographed books? That's right. The brand new book Business is about to pick up. It's an easy read on the John. It's a series of short stories that I highly recommend. And if you haven't checked it out already, what are you waiting for? It costs nothing to take a look at jrsbbq.com. And when you're there, you'll see that JR is a bit of a fool, and he's selling you autographed action figures and trading cards well below market value. He's hooking you up there, and he's passing on the savings and hooking you up on sauce. He's got 2 types of barbecue sauce, and he's got Chipotle ketchup. He's got Main Event mustard. He's got the hot sauce, the red ass JR's hot sauce. But maybe my favorite is the all-purpose seasoning. It goes good on any of your proteins. It's good on fish. It's good on steak. It's good on chicken. It's good on pork. It's good on eggs. I've even heard of people trying it on their popcorn. Look it up. It's JR's all-purpose seasoning at jrsbbq.com. Something for everybody is the motto there, right, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to take care of everybody's needs, and our products are good. They're American made. The recipes are all original. My late wife, Jan, had a major hand in developing recipes and helping me come up with ideas. My favorite, I use the seasoning seemingly every day. My housekeeper cooks dinner for me a couple of days a week. And last week we had salmon, and she had the seasoning. It was like a dry rub type thing. It was covered on the protein on the salmon, and my God, it was good. She cooked it in the little oven, where you can do the grilling and all that stuff. Simple, and it was so good. So as a matter of fact, I'm having that again she asked me yesterday what I wanted for dinner this week. I said, there's nothing wrong with that salmon idea. You know, you can change the sides if you want, but the salmon, the big salmon, piece of salmon seasoned heavily with JR seasoning is absolutely foolproof. It's wonderful. You don't need to add any more seasonings. You don't need to add salt and pepper unless you want to do it to taste. But basically, it's so simple. It makes everything better. And I know Conrad is a big fan of it. He's been our biggest supporter on it. But I enjoy eating the mustard because for years mustard just didn't get it for me. There's a taste in it that just seemed to be too prominent. And the other thing about ours is that the low sugar content. It's great if you're diabetic. Really good. So I when I have a grill, which I do in Oklahoma, which I'm going to soon, I like cooking on the grill for many reasons. It's not dirty. It's easy. It's all that stuff. But I use the mustard as a topping on my fish or my steaks or whatever. It's just got a great flavor, and it changes its profile a little bit when it's warmed up. So give it a shot. And I'm a big mustard guy. It's healthy for me. It adds a lot of flavor and to anything that you put it on. So I had a great uncle, passed on now. He used to make dagwoods. You know what a dagwood is, Conrad?
I don't.
A dagwood is named after the comic strip, Dagwood Bumstead. And some of our older listeners will know that, but it's just a
huge sandwich. Yeah.
It's a great big sandwich. It's got everything on it. It makes it kind of hard to eat because they're so damn big, but you put your onion, I'm a widower and I live by myself. So me eating onions is not a problem. Lettuce, everything's fresh. Tomatoes. When my housekeeper buys groceries, which she does about once or twice a week, and we get a tomato or lettuce, it's all with those sandwiches in mind.
Yep.
And God damn, they're good. Like I said, I overload them, which is nothing new for me, getting overloaded. But I kind of like it that way. It keeps me active. But those sandwiches are just great. I'll eat a sandwich like that in the late afternoon, and that's my supper. So I won't eat after 6 or 7 o'clock. And I was noticing that one of those pictures from our event in Chicago, how much weight I lost.
Yeah.
It's shocking sometimes, but I'm not sick. I'm not eating bad, and I'm not eating too much. Control of your portions big, but what you put in your body's even bigger. And now that I got this little thing on my arm to explain the blood sugar and to determine what it is that moment, it's funny, man. I can go things that you think would be healthy as hell sometimes spike your blood sugar. It's not good. But I can tell you that the insulin component of my health care is very important. And I think that's the reason I've lost from about 250 pounds to, like I said, the other day I was at the grocery store, and they have big scales when you walk in their lobby type area, and Publix is what I'm talking about, the grocery store Publix. And I weighed 198.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Yeah. And I've been down as low as 190, but I feel better. I got more energy. I got my testosterone implant applied this week, so I'm running on jet fuel right now. Look out, New York and Tacoma. I'm kidding. So anyway, our stuff at our site is we have something for everybody. I'm getting ready to ship them some new trading cards that they could be able to buy cheaply, as Conrad pointed out. I don't check the market, and I should, on what the prices are going, what's the going price and certain things. I price it what I think is fair.
Yeah.
Make a little money, but provide a cool product for a fan without them breaking the bank, because it's a novelty item. I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to eat it.
Right.
You're going to look at it and collect it. But I love collectibles like you. All those belts we saw at the event in Chicago are Conrad's. He's a collector.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's pretty damn cool. So and by the way, I really enjoyed that. I thanked you before, but I really liked the fact I got invited to be there, and our little part of business was kind of fun.
It was easy. It's always a blast to hang with you, man. And we appreciate everybody hanging with us. And we certainly appreciate the folks who are part of our live studio audience. We got 3 Ask JR Anythings we'll wind our show up with. Eric Jones wants to know, who was the biggest match you were ref for in NWA Tri-State? Who were the stars of the territory? Did most stay when Watts took over, or did he flip the roster?
Well, when Watts took over, guys flocked to the company because Bill had a great reputation as a booker and making stars. And when you make more stars, they make more money. When they make more money, you make more money. So it's kind of how it works. It's always following the dollar. But we had a lot of stars that fans would remember, no doubt. Bill had a reclamation project. He did a lot of things where he would bring a guy in and as I've been teased about, give him a new hold, make him new again. And I've never really explained that quite as well as I should. The Tri-State area was short on stars, didn't have any box office, and which made them very vulnerable, which has eventually facilitated their exit. Territory stars, of course, we've talked about a lot here. JYD, Ted DiBiase, Buck Robley, a lot of really skilled guys. And as I said before, when those guys came in, you have a small roster, so you got to maximize their minutes. And I heard CM Punk use that term the other day on NXT, maximizing your minutes, something I've been preaching forever and talk about a lot, probably too much. But the territory, Terry Taylor was young and vibrant. Let's not forget Magnum TA. Before his wreck, he was on his way to becoming one of the biggest stars of all time. And what a wonderful human being. So Cowboy had a way of looking at these guys. He brought Wrestling 2 in, convinced him to turn heel. That may sound very elementary, but it's a fact. And the old timer did not want to change. Everybody's. Some of the guys are set in their ways and have an act, so to speak. They're stubborn. So I think that way we did the angle, if people remember, about the lashing, the belt lashing that Wrestling 2 gave to Magnum, and he did it around the territory. So Magnum has back looked like hamburger, looked like one of those pizza commercials, pepperoni. But he was just he changed, but he did those lashes where Magnum took the lashing, and I've always thought that Wrestling 2, I don't want to say he did it out of spite because that's how it was booked, but he laid it in. So if you ever get a chance to check that out, it's pretty compelling because nobody really knew the behind. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have shows like this at that time, so it was really good. So he had an ability to spot young talent that could evolve and become bigger stars for Mid-South or wherever they went, like Magnum, for example. It was always considered that Magnum was going to go back to the Carolinas. He was from that area. He's from Virginia, and he was and Dusty loved Magnum, and so the deal was Cowboy will get Magnum's persona started. He'll help him, smooth this game out. And then at some point when it's right, he would leave Mid-South and go back to work for the Crockett's in the Carolinas. So I know you've got a lot of information available on the Crockett's and and stuff like that. So it's interesting time. But Watts had the foresight to do that, and it was really good. It's just at some point you kind of run out of. It's not that you run out of ideas; you run out of talents to utilize the ideas. And it's not like it is today, where we've talked about a lot of that today. There's a lot of talent out there that's not obligated in one company or another, and they're waiting for their opportunity. I love to hire hungry guys.
Yeah,
that have ideas. Hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if I work with him? We can have great matches. And nobody wants to go out there and not feel like they can have a great match. You want to feel like we can make this work really well because I helped create the idea. I'm motivated to do it. So let's go out there and get it done.
Great question. Great answer. Here's another one from Tony Flowers, who's with us, a part of our live studio audience at adfreeshows.com. He says, when you came to Crockett after the UWF was purchased by JCP, did you have an opportunity to work much with Ronnie Garvin one-on-one? And if so, how was he to work with?
I worked with Ronnie when he worked for Cowboy back in the day before Crockett's. Ronnie was one of the most respected guys in wrestling. Old school values and physical as hell. He didn't want people to walk away saying, well, that's that fake wrestling. Because he'd beat the shit out of you with what chops or kicks or punches or physicality was his specialty. But he was an old school guy. I'm surprised that somewhere down the road he didn't have a long run as a booker because he always had great ideas. And again, that's one of the things that Watts back in the territory days relied on is you bring a talent in, you motivate them with money, and you get them to create some ideas. Who do you want to work with? How do you want to get there? It's like the old days when I used to first got in the business in the early 70s, that the Assassins, Tom Renesto and Joe Hamilton. I loved Joe. He's he helped me a lot with the psychology and booking and a lot of things like that. So, but they didn't change their act. Because they worked that program with the Kentuckians, Grizzly Smith and Luke Brown, that seemed to be timeless. They do basically the same skits, the same scenes. If they were in Kansas City or they're in Oklahoma or North Carolina, wherever it may be, they had an act that worked, and they stuck with it. They just refined it. And I don't see the talents today. I don't know if they don't have the opportunity, Connor. What do you think that is? You think guys that stick together and do more. I guess it's all about the money.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of mine always says it's all about the cash and creative. He's a pretty smart guy. Here's another question from Eric Green. And boy, this is a tough one. We'll end on this one because I realize I'm putting you in a bad spot here accidentally. But what a great question it is. Eric wants to know, if you're speaking with someone who's not as familiar with AEW, what match would you recommend to them as what you would consider encapsulates the spirit of AEW?
Anything with Bryan Danielson.
Okay.
He's just consistent. He's a tough little bastard, physical as hell. He receives as well as he gives. But you're never going to get a bad match on television or anywhere else, for that matter, with Bryan. He's at the end of his run. He's not going to be wrestling that much longer, so he wants to go out with quality performances. And I think thus far in recent weeks, Conrad, we've seen some of his best work. He makes everybody he works with better, which is a beautiful gift. And we're lucky to have him. Because I don't know if he's the best wrestler in the world, but he's damn sure in the conversation.
I can't argue that at all. You know, I would think that my short list, if you're thinking best matches in AEW and certainly best Bryan Danielson matches, I would include his match with Kenny Omega at the very first Grand Slam. I'd also include his match against MJF at Revolution a couple of years ago. And if we're just going to throw it out there, Forbidden Door last year had a barn burner with Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. I think those are probably the ones I would think to recommend. But we recommend that if you haven't already, you set your DVR, because JR is going to be back on Dynamite. He's going to be a part of AEW Grand Slam. Tickets are on sale now at AEWTIX.com. It's happening next Wednesday, the 25th. This is the next major event in pro wrestling. Anytime you're opening the doors to Arthur Ashe, it's a special day. I'm looking forward to seeing JR back on TV. I know you are too, so be sure to set your DVRs. And stay tuned next week. We're going to be coming at you right on time, talking a little Clash of the Champions from yesteryear with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
Well, Conrad, thanks for today. Thanks for promoting our website. We appreciate that very much. It is grilling season, and we can handle all your needs there, as Conrad and I have endlessly pointed out, which I appreciate the time. But this show is a labor of love for me. When I miss it, I feel bad. So I love being on it with you, and I love talking to the fans. I really covet the fact that we've got a studio audience, so to speak.
Yes.
And they ask questions, and they tune in, they invest emotionally in what we're doing, which is very important. But to me, this situation in Arthur Ashe and in Tacoma are just opportunities. I'm 72 years old. I'm probably too old to be doing it. Some people think that, but my boss doesn't. And that's all that really matters. If your boss likes your work, and Tony's been a big fan of mine since he was a kid. And now I'm getting the opportunity to get back in the game a little bit and more, instead of as much supporting role as I am. I don't want to say lead, because that's not a big deal, yay or nay to me. But I'll have a bigger part of the broadcast. I can influence it in a positive way if given the opportunity. And it seems like that opportunity is coming up starting Wednesday and then on into Tacoma. I'm very excited about it.
Come see JR live, AEWTIX.com. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell at grillingjr.com. It's your home for all things JR. We'll see you next week right here on Grilling JR.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you. Next time, bring a friend. Thanks. God bless you.
Have I told you what I'm helping people with in my real life? Yeah, I'm helping them save money over at savewithconrad.com. If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Go get yourself a quick quote. Interest rates have improved, and people are realizing, hey, now's a chance to save some cash. And I'm talking to you, if you're still on the fence about buying a house, we can get you out of that apartment, tell your landlord to kiss your grits, and get you into a brand new house. You can do that with 5% down, with 3.5% down. And yes, there are still no money down options available in 2024. SaveWithConrad.com is your first step. We're going to ask you, hey, where are you now and where would you like to be? And we're going to get you on a path to fit those short-term goals, but really meet the long-term goal that we all want. And that's to appreciate the American dream. The American dream isn't to give 29% of your gross monthly income every month until you die to some banker. No, you want to own that thing for real. Your own piece of land for you and your family, your legacy. And we want to help you get one for yourself at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And maybe you've already got a house, but it'd be nice if you could pay a little less. We're routinely finding a way to help our podcast listeners combine all of their debt, and I mean all of it. Credit cards, personal loans, even car payments. Get it into one low monthly payment. Not only is it a better interest rate, it's also a greater tax deduction, but maybe most importantly, a much cheaper payment. We're routinely helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. But how much can you save? Find out right now at savewithconrad.com.
You guys, the housing market's really good right now, too, for you folks out there that are thinking of making a change in your overhead or your living conditions. Now's not a bad time to make that move. Nowhere better to do it than savewithconrad.com. He's going to save you money. He's going to be honest. And it's like dealing with a friend, an educated friend. And boy, there's a lot of uneducated and unfriendly people in that world. Conrad Thompson is not one of them.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Jim. Check out our reviews online. You're going to see we've got more than 1,000 5-star reviews. Customer service is what it's all about. We want to be your mortgage advisor for life. So there's no application fee. There's no credit report fee. We just want to talk, man. Hey, tell us where you are and tell us where you want to be, and we'll try to help you get a plan to get there. We want to be your advocate, your humble advocate at SaveWithConrad.com.
Attaboy, Connie. Look at those cheeks, ladies. Look at those cheeks, ladies and gentlemen. My God.
How could you say no to that, right?
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.
SaveWithConrad.com.